Yay, I finally made it on. I've been trying for 10 minutes to get a live stream on YouTube. So I don't know if it's my crappy weather or my crappy computer or my crappy Wi-Fi. So just know, who knows how long this video will last before I'm cut off. So discussing today, we are discussing Tiger King from Netflix. So, hi, cute cubs and kittens, or whatever the hell that weirdo lady says. Here's my cute kitten. There you go. So, hello, Tiffany and there. What is Tiger King? So, let me try and do a quick synopsis of it if you have not seen it yet. It's this guy in Oklahoma who starts out with wanting to take care of tigers and starts this zoo. And the crazy world that surrounds this tiger world, big cat world. I think nobody comes out of that looking good. Everybody is guilty. I don't understand. So there's the woman, Carol Baskin, that fucking Carol Baskin, who runs the Big Cat Rescue in Florida. And she makes it her mission to go after anybody else who has tigers in cages. But she has tigers in cages. And so she's calling it a rescue, yet she doesn't ever return any of the tigers that she has to the wild. So I'm just not understanding why she thinks she's above any of these other crazy characters. And it's not like she's not a crazy character, because there's the suspicion that she's got a husband who disappeared and has never been heard from again. And she did some very suspicious things, which I am sure you Stephen Avery Project people and MAM gossip people find Don, whatever his name is. If anybody can do it, you guys can. Yeah, Christy, you can find him, or Carol Ann Fitzgerald. I don't know if you're up yet or on here, but Carol Ann Fitzgerald can find him. Find out what happened to Carol Baskin's second husband, third husband. I can't keep them all straight. Right. And Pam says her rescue looked worse of them all. Now, there is a Facebook group called Tiger King Memes or something like that. And so Carol Baskin and her people have now gone on the attack, and with SAC accounts and everything. So it is all like making a murderer now in all about this, that, with people making fake accounts to attack people and all that shit. But there was a link shared on there to her Big Cat Rescue website where she's claiming that she's doing the same thing like what was done to Making a Murderer, that she was misled on the filming of this, that they told her that this was going to be like a Blackfish documentary and was going to be exposing the bad guys, and that in their creative editing that they made her place look worse than it is. And she says she's got these ginormous spaces that the tigers or big cats are actually in. I don't care how big of a cage she has them in. It is still a cage and no different than any of the other guys. You're all keeping tigers for your own benefit and profit. And I know what she's trying to say is they're separating the babies from their mothers, and then you've got that they shouldn't be socialized, and that also when they get out of the cute stage, the little cute stage, and become the mean ones, what happens to them? Where do they go? And that she's claiming they're euthanized, which may be. I can't speak on that, but I can say that she's doing the same thing. She is profiting off of these tigers. And at least, you'll hear the such low pay that both Joe Exotic and the Big Love dude, what little that they paid the people. But okay, those people are getting free room and board. Yeah, they're eating expired meat from Walmart. But they're at least getting something. Carol Baskin doesn't pay anybody. Yet she's charging people to go into that park. So, and she's hardly living a poor lifestyle. Compare how she's living to how Joe Exotic was living. He wasn't living in a McMansion. So for me, the person who comes out the worst in that documentary is Carol Baskin because of her hypocrisy. Let me see if there's any questions on here. Andrea says, the fact that the will was changed to, in the event of my disappearance, like who does that? Super suspicious. Well, as I do my due diligence, Carol, her explanation for that is she's claiming the lawyer that helped her draw that up was the lawyer they used in Costa Rica, and that people disappear in Costa Rica all the time. So she's claiming in Costa Rica that's standard procedure to say somebody could disappear. I'm not buying it. She also claims, well, here, let me do this. Ooh, hold on. Now I got to type. Big cat. I hate going to her website because I really don't want to give her any hits or anything because she's just such a horrible person. Where is it on here? I had found it from a link, but let's see what this is. A very personal message from Harold Baskin. It's 9 minutes.
This is a video for our supporters to explain to you the deception that took place in the making of the Netflix Tiger King, and to thank you so much for so many expressions of support that we have received from you. Most of you know me, but for those who don't, I'm Howard Baskin, Carol Baskin's husband. And this video may be a little halting because I'm not used to making them. For anyone who isn't familiar with it, some years back, there was a documentary named Blackfish, which exposed the abuse at SeaWorld and had a dramatic effect on SeaWorld in reducing the abuse. 5 years ago, Eric Good and Rebecca Chaiklin approached us saying they wanted to make the Blackfish of big cats in captivity, to expose the abuse in captivity that's associated with the cub petting schemes and how these animals live in roadside zoos after they're too big to pet. We have turned down numerous people who came to us wanting to film because we did not think that they were going to do something meaningful. We thought they just wanted to do something sensational, and we didn't want to be part of it. We did a little homework on Eric and Rebecca. Eric had a turtle sanctuary, so he seemed like someone who had a genuine interest in animal welfare. And Rebecca showed us the resume of one of the senior people that was working with them who had been involved in a great documentary called The Cove some years before that exposed the killing of the dolphins in Japan. So we trusted Eric and Rebecca when they told us that this documentary was going to be a meaningful piece of work that was going to be designed to expose the abuse that these poor cubs endure during the cub petting time and the miserable lives they lead in roadside zoos after that. We also believed them when they insisted that while Joe Exotic would be in it as one of the characters, he would not be the focus. We also believed Eric and Rebecca when they told us that while they felt they had to mention the disappearance of Carol's husband, Don, 23 years before, as part of the context and background on her, that it would be done in a respectful and truthful way. Not only did they lie about that, they never even gave us a chance to respond to many of the false claims that ended up in the documentary. Over the 5 years that they were making this series, they were here probably at least 8 times, each time for 1 to 3 days of filming. We did everything we could to help them because they made us feel like we were their partners in trying to create this meaningful work to end the big cat abuse. In a way, this series is about con artists. People like Joe Exotic and Doc Antle, who con people out of their money by convincing them that paying to pet tiger cubs somehow helps conservation. In my view, the biggest con artists of them all were Eric Good and Rebecca Chaiklin. I believe they are devoid of integrity, don't care about the animals, and clearly do not care about the truth. As far as I can tell, their only goal was to make something as inflammatory and salacious as possible so that Netflix would pay them millions for it. Some of you have had a chance to spend time with Carol in person. Anyone who spends an hour with Carol would come away knowing that there was no way she had any involvement in Don's disappearance, and that the vicious rumors that were spread by his family are absolute nonsense stuff about meat grinders and septic tanks. This week, Kim Kardashian tweeted asking followers if they thought Carol killed her husband. I doubt if Kim will see this video, but if she were to come and spend an hour with Carol, I know she would have her answer, and I know what it would be. And of course, we would welcome her visiting if she wanted to. I don't have a way to arrange for each of you to spend that hour with
This is Carol Baskin's husband, Howard.
I thought the next best thing that I could do would be to spend a minute or two just personally telling you what it is like to have been her husband and her partner in this mission to stop big cat abuse. In 15 years of living together, we have never had an argument. We have never even had a
because he's afraid of the sardine oil.
Had to come back later and say, I'm sorry I said that. We make decisions together every week, and we don't always agree. And what we do is we talk about it. He
just said they never have an argument. Not agreeing is an argument.
We come to a decision that we both agree to. At some point in the discussion, after going back and forth, one of us just says, you know what? I can see that this is more important to you than it is to me. And let's do it your way. I honestly believe that I am the luckiest man in the world. I cannot imagine having a more considerate or caring spouse. What I'm not sure anyone can imagine is how difficult it is as a husband.
He was trying to cry, but nothing happened.
So grossly mistreated by people who we trusted and betrayed us. For those of you who are interested, we built a website that goes into, in great detail, the events that occurred leading up to Don's disappearance. That website is bigcatrescue.org/truth. Unfortunately, the injustice in the film does not stop there. We are getting nasty messages from people who believed it when Joe Exotic says that our cages are small. Those of you who have visited, of course, know that our smallest cage is the size of a small house, about 1,200 square feet, and the rest of them are much bigger. You know that the, quote, overgrown weeds that Joe refers to are the natural setting that our cats live in, which is, of course, the best setting for them. All of this is in contrast to Joe's zoo, where most of the animals live in tiny rectangular chain link boxes with pebble surfaces that are totally barren. As most of you know, people can only visit the sanctuary going on a guided tour of 20 people or less.
You're so right,
Tells
Christy.
them about the histories of the cats and then uses that to relate to the issues that they face in captivity and in the wild to educate people. The series
I think this video just was made in the last day or so.
Called The Walkabout, where 600 people come from all over the country and some from all over the world to visit the sanctuary, to raise money, to donate to conservation projects in the wild. It's the one day where
show your taxes
around the sanctuary. But the series has people believing that every day we are just packed with crowds of people wandering around all day. Last year, that event generated $35,000 to donate to projects saving cats in the wild. When the journalist Robert Moore did the Wondery podcast,
maybe 35,000 is what you've donated to try and cover up what you do.
All the lies that Joe had told them in the course of his experience with Joe. Tiger King doesn't even tell people that when Joe was claiming to be a country western singer, he was actually paying Danny Clinton and Vince Johnson to write and sing the songs.
Who didn't know that he was lip syncing?
Being a country western
Who
singer.
cares? We don't care. It doesn't mean that you're not doing something wrong.
There is still a silver lining in all this. The series is reaching millions and millions of people who probably never had any idea the disreputable nature of the kind of people who operate these cub petting schemes for money. Hopefully, many of the viewers will realize that they should not patronize these places because it just supports this abuse. If you've taken the time to watch this video, I just want to sincerely thank you on behalf of myself, Carol, our staff, the volunteers, and particularly on behalf
staff
of
and volunteers would be the same thing since you don't pay anybody.
Expressions of support that you have sent to us during this time of dealing with this betrayal, which of course comes on top of the coronavirus, which is...
Me too, Heather. I'm right there with you. Totally would.
With your continued support, we'll put a stop to this big cat abuse. Thank you.
And all right, so then she's got a big long diatribe that she says is refuting Netflix Tiger King. And I read this yesterday. So this is written by Carol. Here, I'll give you the link, even though, again, I just hate her getting any kind of traffic because she sucks. There's the link to it. Okay, so she starts out by saying the whole thinking it was going to be Blackfish. She didn't know that they'd be talking about her husband, Don. Oh, sorry. I'm getting out. This page isn't working. Oh, sorry. My mother messaging me. So then she's trying to say good news is they've gotten a lot of people saying that animals should not be in cages, and then plug for her website. Then she's talking about crowd size, and she's saying that film is from our once a year event called The Walkabout. The rest of the year, our visitors are taken around in groups of no more than 20 on guided tours. Again, but you're making money. Are you taking them on guided tours for free? So I don't care if you had one person or 5,000 people. You're making money on people coming through there to look at the tigers you have in cages. Next section is titled Cage Size, where she's saying the same thing like Howard did, their smallest enclosure. He basically just read this because it's like word for word of what Carol's already typed up. Smallest enclosure is the size of a small house, about 1,200 square feet, and the largest is over 2 acres, all in a natural setting full of foliage. And then she's doing but Joes live in small, barren prison cells. I'll show you a prison cell with pebbles. And then a plug for her website. Next one's called Suing Joe's Mother. Others believed Joe's claim that in suing his mother, we were trying to harass her and take her house. We never made any claims to her house. We had to sue her because she actively participated with Joe and later with Joe and Jeff Lowe to transfer assets into and out of her name that belonged to Joe or his zoo in order to hide them from us. We reached a settlement agreement with her where she admitted the long list of fraudulent activities she had participated in, and it did not require her to make any payments to us. And then a thing that you can click on called Shirley Shrivebogle Settlement Agreement and Court Order. Make money in paying workers. Some viewers not familiar with how IRS approved 501c3 nonprofits operate hear Joe lie and claim Carol makes money or profits from the sanctuary and that we do not pay our workers. Nonprofits have some paid staff. Salaries here are in the 30s to 60s. Woohoo. Then they have people who want to do something meaningful for a good cause with their time, so they volunteer their time to help. By definition, volunteers are not paid, they donate their time. All sanctuary income, whether it is from tours, donations, or a gift shop, stays in the nonprofit to support its mission. That's making a profit. I'm sorry, you just call it a nonprofit, just like a freaking church. Carol gets none of that money, just her salary like the other employees. She worked 60 plus hours a week and didn't take a paycheck for the first 20 years of the sanctuary. She doesn't need to take a paycheck. All the money that comes in is hers. In the first 11 years of the sanctuary, she was the largest donor every year. Joe never had volunteers because of the horrible way he treated people. Well, they sure stayed a long time. His statements about not paying our staff or making a profit are idiotic. About 100 people volunteered to help at the sanctuary because it gives them personal satisfaction to donate their time to caring for the animals and helping us end abuse. I don't know how you're helping end abuse. We also have interns who come from all over the world and spend 3 months living on property, getting an incredible educational experience that builds their resumes. The most recognized nonprofit ratings agency, Charity Navigator, which reviews our audited financial statements in detail, gives us their top 4-star rating and a perfect numerical score of 100, something less than 1% of charities achieve. Charities are scammers. I don't care about that at all. And everything else has a click to go here to go see something for proof. And, there's no proof for their money. No tax returns, no nothing. How come there's nothing there to prove what money's coming in and what money's going out and where it's going to? Next topic is titled Cats Are in Cages, So We and Joe Are the Same. Another idiotic Joe lie. At the sanctuary, we take in abandoned, abused, confiscated, and orphaned cats and give them a permanent home. Not true, you buy them. Some come to you that way, and some are bought. A sanctuary does not breed, buy, sell, allow people to touch the cats or put them through the stress of traveling off-site. It is basically a retirement home. Joe Exotic incessantly bred tiger cubs so he could make money charging people to pet and take photos with them. And the cubs are torn from their mothers at birth, a torment to any mammal, mother, and infant. They are deprived of the antibodies in the mother's milk that prevent disease that bottle formula does not have. I'll fight you over breast milk. There is no tracking of how many die, although some years ago, Joe was investigated for the death of 23 cubs. They are deprived of sleep whenever there are customers wanting to pay. They are physically punished to diminish their natural behaviors. For examples of how Joe treated cubs, see more of her websites. Our cats live in large, spacious enclosures in a natural setting full of foliage. You already said that. Joe's lived in barren, blah, 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 that you've already said before. Our cats receive professional veterinary care in a state-of-the-art hospital with x-ray and ultrasound. Well, because you got all that money from killing your husband. So you can afford those kinds of things. And you don't charge, or you don't pay your workers. Here and okay, so here she is attacking the expired Walmart meat that he fed them. Blah 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 blah. She's not talking so far. She hasn't talked about the rabbits that they so happily fed to the tigers. I wonder if rabbits feel pain, and rabbits don't like being separated from their mothers and fed to tigers. Rabbits are mammals too, right? What about cows? It's okay to chop up a cow, separate the cow from its family. That's okay though. In addition to educating visitors about the challenges like extinction facing the cats in the wild, well, you don't need to have actual tigers to do that. They're just caught that rabbit, lives matter. These are in situ projects. In 2019, it was over $100,000. You can see the many species we have supported at their website. Now to address episode 3 that falsely accuses Carol of causing her husband's disappearance. So her first paragraph, she says that he was hoarding junk vehicles on the property. And so it says, but gradually his hoarding of junk that he brought to the 40 acres the sanctuary now sits on increased and involved junk of no value. He deteriorated into dumpster diving and even got stuck in a dumpster and called me crying because he did not know where he was. So here she is saying, back then, Alzheimer's was not a commonly used word. Bullshit. I had not heard of it. Oh, because she hasn't heard of it. It didn't exist. Okay, got that. Someone mentioned Alzheimer's to me, and I got Don to agree to set up an appointment with a specialist, Dr. Gold. Anne McQueen intervened and convinced him to see her psychiatrist, Dr. Blazzini. He referred us to a Dr. West, paging Dr. West, in the same building who was not there. So Don saw Dr. Russell. He diagnosed Don with bipolar disorder and gave him a prescription to have an MRI at St. Joseph's Hospital. I did not find the prescription until I was searching his bedside table looking for clues to his disappearance. Yeah. Wondering if she wrote that prescription. His behavior became increasingly strange. He started refusing to use the bathroom and defecating outside. He brought in a homeless man to stay in our house. Well, maybe he was just trying to rescue. I rescheduled an appointment for him to see the specialist, Dr. Gold, but he disappeared before the appointment date. And this section is titled Don's Wealth. She's got in quotes, wealth. Everyone repeats the lie that Don was a millionaire when I met him. He had a business cutting the axles off of trailers pulled by tractors and selling the boxes as storage and the axles back Great Dane. That's what it says. If you search the property records, you'll find he only owned 2 real estate properties at the time. Oh, only 2. He only owned 2. He may well have been worth 6 figures, and coming from a very modest background, would have felt he was rich. No one, including Anne McQueen, who had access to his books, has ever provided any bank records or other evidence that he had more than that. Because you kind of took everything, Carol. One day at the bank, he overheard a bank officer say he had a $20,000 loan in default. He would be glad to sell for $2,000. Is that $2,000? Yeah, okay. Because sometimes she's got commas and sometimes she doesn't. He got the information, and because he could not read beyond a first grade level, asked me to look into it. In brief, we bought the loan, foreclosed, and sold the property for a substantial profit. Scammers. That is what got us into the real estate business. We started buying defaulted loans from banks and going to tax deed sales. This was before this became a popular business. There were few people doing it. With me doing the research, negotiations, and title clearing on the properties, we built this to a portfolio of properties to rent or resell that was worth around $5 million at the time of his disappearance. We kept the properties in trusts. During the roughly 10 years we were partners before his divorce, which he's gotten all bold, before his divorce, and our marriage, so she's okay with being the other woman. There were properties we bought together and some Don bought on his own or with another woman, Pam. When we married, I put all those I had not worked on into one trust. The ones from our joint efforts were kept in a separate trust. The trust holding the properties I was not involved in was set up with his children as beneficiaries if he passed. Wait, not if he disappeared? And called the PRSL Land Trust. I was the beneficiary of the trust holding the properties I was involved in. Anyone could search his name in the public records from 1950 to 1997 to see this is true. No link for you to go see it, though. Next section's called The Main People Interviewed and Their Lies. Anne McQueen is referred to as Don's trusted assistant. A few months before his disappearance, we caught her embezzling roughly $600,000 in properties by buying them with our funds and putting them in her name. A court ordered her to return them. Not the best sign of integrity, credibility, someone to believe. And then she's got an alleged link to that case. Wendell Williams. We made a loan to Wendell when he purchased the 40 acres that became the sanctuary. He dug out dirt to sell for construction, digging an 18-acre, 30-foot deep hole without our knowing. He then began operating the hole as an illegal dump site for construction debris. The hole filled up with water when he hit a spring. He stopped making payments. We foreclosed on him and ended up with the property. Well, that was your whole scam. You were constantly foreclosing on people. Wendell is a very good con man, and Don continued to deal with him despite this. During the time when Don was declining mentally, I repeatedly observed Wendell cheating Don. Don liked to carry a lot of cash. I heard Wendell telling Don, "Remember that $2,000 you owe me?" and saw Don peeling off $2,000 and gave it to him. A few hours later, I saw Wendell do it again. And because of Don's dementia, Don peeled off $2,000 again and gave it to Wendell. I confronted Wendell about it. After that, Wendell did everything he could to create a rift between me and Don. There were many much larger transactions where Wendell was scamming Don. He was convincing Don he was selling Don real estate properties by handing him paper he said were deeds but were not, much like your will. Don, who could not read, believed him and would give him cash and checks for amounts in excess of $60,000, thinking he was purchasing property. And then a link to that alleged case. Don's wife, Gladys Lewis Cross, and daughters Donna Pettis, Linda Sanchez, and Gail Rathbone. I feel for Gladys because every woman in Don's orbit adored him. He could make you feel like you were the only woman in the world, the only one who understood him, the only one he ever really loved. In the series, Gladys makes it sound like she told Don their marriage was over when she found out about me. Don had been unfaithful to her for years, and it was well known by her and generally. In the 1988 Dateline People magazine article, Anne McQueen said she was probably the only woman he didn't try to have sex with. Even Don's daughter refers in the series to Don's condition as being a sexaholic. When Gladys demanded a divorce in 1989, there was a man at her church she wanted to marry. So she told Don that if he would give her a quick divorce, she would settle for $1 million. She and the daughters worked with Don to pick properties she would get, along with some cash, cars, jewelry, and coins. I was told that Don's oldest daughter, Donna Pettis, subsequently managed to lose all of it in the stock market in the years followed. In 1996, despite their prior divorce settlement agreement, Gladys, who freely accuses me of being greedy, filed a suit claiming she was entitled to more, and then a link to that alleged lawsuit. Daughters Donna and Linda testified on behalf of Gladys. Don expected Gail and Ann McQueen to testify on his behalf. Instead, they testified for Gladys. At that time, Don told me to eliminate them as beneficiaries of the PSRL trust. I did not do so because I felt they were family, and over time, he would change his mind. Bullshit. To the best of my knowledge, he never spoke to any of them again. After Don disappeared, there were years of my having to manage the properties under a conservatorship demanded by Gladys and the daughters. The numerous attorneys they involved, all being paid out of the estate, reduced the assets significantly. Ultimately, the assets in the PRSL trust that had the daughters as beneficiaries went to them. Those assets were worth about $1 million. The assets in the other trust, worth about $2 million, by then came to me. The claim the girls made in the series that I picked the assets they got and they were bad assets is nonsense. Wait, you just fucking said up higher that you're the one that decided the ones that I worked on, that you claim that you worked on, you kept, and then you assigned those to them. So you even said it 2 paragraphs up. Anyway, they got the assets from the trust they were beneficiaries of, worth $1 million. Gladys and her daughters had strong, selfish motivations to lie and make implications about the meat grinder and Don being buried on the property 23 years ago that have absolutely no basis in fact whatsoever, and they continue to do so in the series. Next section is the supposed circumstantial evidence. The series makes a huge deal out of Don having applied for a restraining order that was denied, and that the term disappearance, she likes quotes. We know somebody else who likes quotes, used in the power of attorney document. Both have logical explanations the directors did not explain. Ann's story about being told by Don to deliver the restraining order application to police, which she didn't say that. Didn't she just say it was just a letter? She didn't say it was a restraining order application to be delivered to the police if he disappeared. Didn't say that. The application for a restraining order. Don spent 1 week per month in Costa Rica. Don was a man who wanted to have sex daily. He would go to Costa Rica during the week I was having my menstrual cycle. I accepted this as something I had to live with. Why did you have to live with it? During the week he was away, I would haul off the property as much of the junk as I could. Wendell told Don I was doing this. Don tried calling the police to get them to stop me. They told him he would need a restraining order. It is unclear if it was Don's idea to get a restraining order. He should say I threatened him or something like Wendell suggested that. Don filed for the order June 20, 1997, and it was denied. Don disappeared 2 months later on August 18, 1997. Ann claims Don told her to give the document to the police if anything happened to him. If someone tells you that the person disappears 2 months later, do you forget that, as Ann claims? No, you remember and give it to the police immediately. But Ann did not tell the police or me about it until September 9, 1997, when she claims to have suddenly remembered just in time to spring it on me in a court hearing with Judge Sexton as a way to try and have herself appointed as conservator of our estate. Ann is an embezzler and a liar, and her claim that Don told her, quote, if anything happens to me, give it to the police, unquote. And she simply forgot that until the hearing 3 weeks later is simply not credible. Later, when Ann was forced to return the embezzled properties at the end of the negotiations, with the matter now closed, she opened up and told me that she knew all along that the only reason Don applied for the restraining order was to stop me from removing the junk. Disappearance in the power of attorney. Don had told me about people going to Costa Rica and disappearing. Our Costa Rican attorney, Roger Peterson, said the helicopter brothers were the local version of the mafia and Don was loaning them money. That is why I included disappearance as an event that would activate the power of attorney. I am sure Attorney Joe Fritz is correct that this is unusual. It made perfect sense in this situation, given what I was told by Don and by Peterson about Costa Rica and Don's dealings there at the time. The entire discussion of whether Don's small plane could fly to Costa Rica was irrelevant. She claims he purchased a whole bunch of planes and properties, blah, blah, blah. She would suggest that is the only reason I urge the police to investigate there. But the series seems to imply I was suggesting he flew one of his planes there. The van and airport. It was the police who found the van at the airport, not me. And the mechanic, Dale Lively, said they came to him because they found his fingerprints in the van. So I have no idea where Kenny got that idea. All right. And then this section is she's calling the whole meat grinder thing a lie and claiming in the documentary they showed this like big industrial one, but she had just this small little hand crank one. The office trailer. The series makes it sound like there was something nefarious about my moving the office trailer to the sanctuary property to secure it. They implied this was wrong because it was Anne's office. The trailer was moved because Anne was spotted taking boxes of records out of the trailer, which she was not entitled to do. Anne was an employee. It was not her trailer. It belonged to our business. I removed it to where I could keep it secure so she could not keep stealing documents. The implication that this was done to keep the trailer from the police is nonsense. I showed the police the power of attorney, entitling me to move it, and invited them to look through it as much and whenever they wanted. So what? You removed the real power of attorney. Big deal. Then she says, Mark McCarthy operates a horrible roadside zoo in South Florida, one of the places we would like to see not exist. Dennis Hill is the first of the exotic animal abusers to threaten to kill me years ago. Vernon Yates houses animals in small barren cages in St. Petersburg and makes money taking them to venues like restaurants or pet store parking lots. When we find out, we contact the venues like we did with Joe's Malls. You're such a predator. Vernon has twice physically attacked me. No link to proving that, though. All three of these animal exploiters have a motivation to lie to make life difficult for me in any way they can. In contrast, Kenny Farr, I love like a son. He was someone I could trust to keep Don from getting lost or going into cages with cats that would kill him while I worked. But his estimate that Don was worth $20 million made me laugh out loud. He would have no possible basis for any guess of the value. That was 4 times what our holdings had ever been worth prior to Don's appearance on August 18, 1997. The bottom line, Don was not easy to live with, and like most couples, we had our moments. But I never threatened him, and I certainly had nothing to do with his disappearance. When he disappeared, I did everything I could to assist the police. I encouraged them to check out the rumors from Costa Rica, and separately, I hired a private investigator. Robert Moore's Wondery podcast, Joe Exotic, included discussion of Don's disappearance, but was much more honest and fair in their treatment of it. They ended the discussion by pointing out that the investigator told them that in their dealings with me, quote, she was courteous and there was nothing that jumped out at me in terms of her demeanor that to make me think that she was not giving us accurate information or hiding anything, unquote. And that's the whole thing. Let me go over and see what you all have said. I'm scrolling up to where I posted the link. Yeah, Joy says, I don't believe in keeping those animals in captivity and I won't support it, but you do you. I agree with you. Josta says, yes, she sucks big time. The cat that ate her hubby should be eating her. Joyce says a rescue shouldn't be having guided tours. Yeah, because if they were in the wild, they wouldn't have people regularly walking past them. My kids are brats, stayed up till 5 a.m. watching Tiger King. Karen says, I think they were both as bad as each other. Was there actual evidence that Joe plotted to kill Carol, or was he convicted based on people's word? Yeah, I don't see any proof in there that he was trying to have her killed. Nothing. I do not see. He said over and over again he wanted her dead. And so it had already stated in there that he didn't like that dude that the guy, Jeff guy, brought on. So why would that be the one he's going to confide in and have go commit this murder for him? That makes zero sense. So I don't buy it. Justice says, exactly, Joyce. She's doing exactly the same thing he did, but now she's getting all his clients some more money. Cha-ching. Joyce says she didn't need that money. She didn't need to go after everyone. Right. Justice says she's still mating cats and selling kittens to other zoos. Yeah, Justice saying upper zookeepers for her do get paid. Justice says, yeah, one even got her arm eaten and then went back to work for Joe. Can't be that bad. Good point. Justice says they're just homophobic. See her husband sneer when he talks about Joe and his husbands. Yeah, you're probably onto something there. Shelley says foliage equals weeds. Yeah, and I don't think the foliage that you have in Florida is what they would have in their natural habitat. Justice says all Joe did was keep the kitten in his house and watch them 24/7, even let them sleep in his bed sometimes. Yes, that's not right for wildcats, but it shows how much he loved his pets. Well, so when you see, she used to do that. She did that until she was able to have her husband disappear. And then she found a better way to profit. See, because that's why she comes out on top as opposed to Joe, is because she's using the government in not-for-profit status and calling herself a rescue as opposed to a zoo. So you can't do those cub petting things when you're claiming to be a rescue. So she's untouchable because the government is saying she's a charity, and then she's able to launder what money comes in, and it's like, oh, we're going to give this to charities to rescue tigers, and chances are those places they're donating the money to are owned by her too. Andrea says, who knew that a gun-toting meth head magician, country singer, political candidate, tiger hoarder would save us all from boredom during quarantine? Right, Andrea? It is. I watched it. I couldn't believe it. And I know I even posted it on Stephen Avery Project. And I know a lot of people who are on Stephen Avery Project, they only want stuff if it has to do with Stephen. But come on, nothing's going on right now. And this is bizarre. And it's got a lot of the same stuff that if you're just somebody who watches Making a Murderer and likes that, it's the same kind of rabbit hole you're falling down with, same weird people and weird stuff. And there's Heather's Rabbit Lives Matter. Justice says, yes, rabbits are. See those pictures of those rabbits with Carol's volunteers all bloody and stuff. Well, and I was also on Joe Exotic's fan Facebook page, one that he had set up, and it hasn't been updated in a long time, or at least what I could see wasn't. And I was scrolling through. So, I was back in like 2011 and stuff. And he had more pictures on there showing her tigers eating rabbits. So there was more to it than just that one picture. Justice said, had to love it when Joe dressed up as a big white rabbit. And I thought it was funny during his deposition when they're like, and you passed these pictures out? And he's like, no, I was a rabbit. So I wasn't passing them out. Shelley says, Lordy, I watched this the other night, but I must have slept through some of it. Gonna have to watch more. I've seen it twice now because I watched it by myself and then I had Jeff watch it and I watched it with him. So I've seen it twice. Don't judge me. Karen says, I initially thought that Joe really loved the Tigers until the woman had her arm eaten, and Joe said he wasn't to lose financially because of it. He didn't seem to care that the woman lost her arm. I agree. And let's do an educational moment here. From what I have seen online about that person that lost their arm, they're actually trans and identify as male. So, was it Staffy or Staff stuff? Something I can't remember what they went by, but I guess their pronoun is he, him, his. So let's appreciate that and go by that's a him. I'm not talking down to anybody here. Just it's something I came across in following down my rabbit hole on it, and I respect people's pronouns. Justice said he did worry about her and went to the hospital, made sure her hospital bills were paid. Okay. Justice says they took Joe to court and won their decision of $1 million. That wasn't enough for her greedy ass, so she had to take him down. So they got all his clients too. Okay, there's Justice saying, exactly, Joyce, profiting off others for their own benefit. Sickening. I despise people who do that for a living while hiding behind a facade like saving wild cats. Joyce said, why would he tell her to delete them, but not a lawyer? There's two talking to each other. Shelley says, good Lord, why go into your sex life? That must have been when I was reading. It was that he'd go away during or when she had her period. Joy says, and he said she was going to kill him. Justice says, wah, wah, wah. She sounds like a kindergartner. He's doing this and they are saying that. Feel bad for me, wah. Joy says she's got an answer for everything. Justice says, as if that restraining order would stop anyone from removing old junk from property. She just doesn't make sense in her mountain of lies. Heather says Don was a billionaire. Well, no, he was a millionaire who couldn't read. No, he couldn't, because also, remember they talked about how he married his first wife. He was 17 and she was 14. And then if you look at the restraining order written in his own words, it's much like, again, coming back to Making a Murderer, when you see the Avery family and that they're illiterate. He couldn't spell and things. So he's clearly illiterate, got married at 17. I don't know how much schooling he had. I don't believe he had a whole lot of schooling. So yeah, he couldn't read. Justice says, thing is, if the movie showed or documented something she didn't like, she could have had them remove that part. No, I don't think she could. You don't have that right to tell them to remove things. That's what is really hard when you do anything media wise. It's like Marni Yang, and her 2020. They've done a whole lot of filming with 2020. There's going to be a 2-hour episode on Marni Yang's case, but now it's pushed back because of the coronavirus stuff. Marni's worried about how it's going to edit you to look like, because when you look at everything that's out there currently on Marni's case, any episodes, it's all showing so guilty. So you just never know. And you don't have that right. That's something that I've talked with Tammy about, where it should be, where we say to anybody who wants to do anything media with Marni, that it should be that we have the right to have them remove something we don't want, or at the very least, they need to give us the finalized content like 24 hours before it airs, so we can see what they're going to do and we can be ready for it. So she didn't have any. She couldn't direct any on what was going to be in this documentary. Oops, where did it go? Okay, Joyce says, funny, she took everyone else to court when they farted in her direction, but Anne embezzled from her and no court, no jail. But Joyce, there was a link to some alleged court case in there. But maybe that's something we're all quarantined. If anybody wants to fall down those rabbit holes and go click on all those different cases and go read what they are and try and, get the real story out of all of this. Justice says she's only complaining after the fact because the general public who saw right through her are pointing out facts, and all fingers point to her killing her hubby. I think you're right, Justice. She really thought she was going to come out of there sweet as pie, and they all come out losers. Shelley says, sounds like a bunch of bullshit, just own a business. Joy says she knew they would never find his tiger shit body. Justice says it's not. It's just that there were 3 wild cat sanctuaries in the same vicinity of 100 square miles. She wanted all the visitors to go to her sanctuary by putting the others out of business. Justice says he was convicted on hearsay. Justice says, yeah, right. Who would he go to? Someone he disliked to do a favor? And I'm sure that's when I was talking about why would Joe Exotic hire Jeff's guy that he didn't like? He just wouldn't. Heather said, I had issues with other meth mouths. That husband with the really bad one, there's pictures of him. You can see that he's had it fixed. So he's got teeth now. Heather, Safi, thank you very much. That's the guy's name that had his arm ripped off. Justice says, right. Joe had a lot of trans, gay, lesbian workers working for him, giving them equal opportunity, unlike Carol and her sidekick. And let me touch on that too. He was hiring people that nobody else would hire. So was he just taking advantage of the less fortunate, or was he helping them? Or both? You make the call. But you could see these people at the end of it all, while they're upset with Joe for killing tigers, the ones that were euthanized or whatnot, they all still, talked about how it was the best job they ever had. So I see it as him, the Isle of Misfit Toys. And then they, much like a circus, you get the freaks and geeks, right? Justice said, I used to watch him way back when on YouTube. Got tired of him complaining about her, so stopped watching him. But little did I know it would turn into a movie years later. Oh, wow, Jasta. I have heard that it's going to be made into a actual movie with the woman from Saturday Night Live playing that fucking Carol Baskin. And Jasta, don't forget to thumbs up. And hi, Samantha. Heather says, I think he was helping them. Justice says, yeah, it's hard to say. But then they went to court against him. They didn't feel comfy doing it because he was the only one who gave them a chance. Exactly, Jax. And then Justice says, wow, really, that would be cool on a movie being made. So now I'm down current with all your comments. So as now we're approaching an hour. So my bottom line on all of this, none of them come out well. All of them did or do, in the case of Carol Baskin, who is still operating, bad things. They're all claiming they're helping tigers while keeping them in cages. No matter what the size of the cage, you're not returning them to the wild. I don't knock zoos. I'm not somebody, I love the zoo. I've been a member to our local zoo for on and off for years. I do think a lot of good things happen at zoos. And so so I wouldn't attack Carol if she wasn't being so hypocritical and attacking everybody else who's doing the same thing she is. Um a lot of them live bizarre lifestyles, having multiple spouses and all that. It's not my business. If you're not hurting anybody, your life is not my business. Don't care. That one woman that was on there that used to be a part of the Big Love Sanctuary or zoo or whatever you want to call it, she still seemed to talk about it fondly. Yeah, it's like a cult, but she doesn't seem like somebody who escaped Scientology. So, not my business. The only issue that I will have is, okay, breed the tigers. All right. Like the one guy said, he's like, okay, they're endangered. So you're encouraging to have more tigers. I'm fine with that. I am fine with letting people pet tigers. I'm tiger cubs. I'm good with that, but not to euthanize them once they're too old. I think there should be a limit as to how many you can own. And I think that should be regulated. That, somebody's going there regularly to count your tigers. And if one dies, maybe you need to contact your local authority or whatever to come make sure what happened to it or whatever. And so maybe what they should be doing is you have the ones that have the cubs, and then once they're no longer of the age that you want to make money off of the petting, then you give them to Carol Baskin to provide them sanctuary till their death. How about that? But first you have to limit the amount they can have. You can't have 200 and something tigers there. No, you can't keep breeding them like that. So there should just be a set number population or something. I don't know how you do that, but just a thought. Joe was the best looking of all, he and Travis. Oh, I can't even go there. I can't even think of those people on a tractor. They were just all kind of. Joy says, I think Jeff and Alan, Jason, and the worst all got together to have her killed. And when FBI got involved, they dumped it on Joe. Well, it was the other ones were all getting in trouble, and they had to do something. They had to give the FBI something so they could get away with the other things they were doing. So now let's look at Joe and this murder to hire, or hire for murder, or whatever you call it. I don't buy it. I could he have said something about it? Yeah, he's been saying it for years. Or Josh, so you were the one that had been watching him back then. So he was saying it for years. He wanted her dead and all this or that. You've got it recorded many times over. I don't, and also at this point when this was happening, it's when he was like done. Jeff had stolen the zoo from him, all that, it's like done. So I just don't buy it. That's so, and I'm not defending Joe. in saying he's a good person, but I just don't buy that. Justice says, exactly, Jax. If they come to you as a kitten, raise it and set it free after 3 years. Well, you can't set it free. That's the thing, Justo. Once you've now socialized it, it can't survive in the wild. So now you have to go to a sanctuary. So then maybe that's something that Joe should have done, or any of these other guys. Have two. Have your kitty kingdom. I miss Kitty Kingdom. We had a Kitty Kingdom here in the Chicagoland area. Not this kind of kitty. Kiddie, Kitty Kingdom. It was so much fun. But you could have had a Kitty Kingdom and a sanctuary. But then it should be monitored, and you're only allowed so many. You're only allowed to breed, have seasons or once a year or something like that. Justice says, I agree, Joyce, because Joe was getting out of that sanctuary anyway. So he was on his way out. They didn't have to frame him too, but they did so they could get everything from Joe. Kat says, once you have socialized a tiger cub, you can't release it into the wild. It won't be able to hunt on his or her own. Exactly. And I dumped over my garbage can. Ugh. Heather says, if Joe was abusive, he would have shot that cat that dragged him around by his leg. I do think, sorry, I'm still picking up garbage underneath my feet here. I do think Joe was abusive. Being good to them sometimes, but I believe he was abusive at times as well. I do firmly believe that. I also didn't like seeing the scene where the cub was just born and here they are with a cane or whatever, hooking it and pulling it out of there. If I knew that was being done because maybe the mother gets violent right away and you have to get the cub away from the mother, or the mother could kill it. But that's not why he was doing it. He was doing it because then he was going to pull it out there to people and go, look, only an hour old. I don't like that. Not at all. So, going along with the regulation, maybe it should be you can only have your cubs that you can pet have to be a month old. I don't know. I not a cat expert. This is my cat. Not a cat expert. So I can't tell you what the good time would be to be able to pet the tiger cubs. But I do think that the mom and the baby should have some time together first before it's showtime. So I know there's people now who are trying to get Joe freed. He was just sentenced, right? It was January of this year. So it was, not that long ago. I have seen the documentarians have posted that they might do another show, that they've got, tons on the cutting room floor, and there's still more going on. So perhaps we'll get a season 2. I don't know if I'm going to be the one to fall down the rabbit hole of looking into all the evidence and everything on this case, but if you do, please let me know what you find. What the actual facts are, and if you think Joe is guilty or innocent. Justice said Joe did it so that the kittens would imprint on him, making it easier to handle them when they got older. Aha, Justa. Okay, I understand what you're saying there. That makes sense. I still don't like it though. And then Justice says, I think Carol or that movie director set that building on fire. That one I don't know about. I could say Joe did that because, yeah, it was convenient that he was out of town when that happened. And he likes making those big booms. Um, I don't think the guy from Hard Copy did it, the director guy, because he did think he was going to be able to use all that footage and make money off of it. And Carol Baskin had just offered him money for it. I know I know they're saying she didn't, but I'll bet you any money there was money involved in that. So I don't think he did it. So in my opinion, it was Joe that did it. I don't think Carol could do that. Um, unless she paid the hard copy guy to do it. Yeah. Um, okay, there's Joyce saying, yeah, you have to imprint on animals right after birth. Okay. All right. That makes sense. But I still don't like it. I don't like it. Um mm. Because also if you're just going to take the tigers and once they can no longer be pet into a sanctuary, then you shouldn't just be with them and they don't need to imprint on you. Let them live out their lives in whatever sanctuary you've made for them. Right? So let them be with their mom. Um, Justice says hate crimes against gays are beyond reality. And then continues with burning the movie building to stop some truths from coming out. I don't know. That fire is suspicious. I don't like when animals are torn from their parents. Yeah, I don't either. So, um, what else is there to talk about in this? We've got about 10 minutes left. Um, well, Jeff's favorite guy was the Scarface guy, that he was totally upfront and, admits what he did. Um, I love that Carol had said to the documentarian, "You'll never be able to get in there," and then they got in there. Thought that was funny. But then another one that the tigers were to attract wives, and you had that guy Jeff with the young girl, and then while she's pregnant he's right away saying uh have this baby and get to the gym, and then the model looking nanny, and there's a lot of big love. Justice says, I'll start doing homework on Joe. If I find anything new, like court proofs, I'll give them to you in MAM, Jax. Thanks, Jassa. Yeah, the hot nanny. I mean, the chick was hot. No lie about that. No way would I allow a hot nanny. But they live that kind of lifestyle. So, but how odd is it that like everybody who does this tiger thing have like multiple spouses? Now, Carol Baskin didn't have them all at one time, but she euthanizes them like Joe does his tigers when she wants to move on to the next old cat. But she's bilingual, Heather says. Jasta said she was hot, but he must have a small weenie. Hmm. My kids are brats says that was disgusting, saying he had to have a good looking nanny to look at. Yeah. Misogyny at its best, right? Well, and then look at the Dr. Bognan or whatever the hell he called himself. That he changed all the women's names to. I thought it was funny, the girl from Iowa, when she was going through their pictures and she's like, and this was Renee. This was, but now they have these exotic names and he picks out their outfits for them. But did you see the houses they were living in? I mean, I know I keep referring to Big Love, maybe there's those of you who've never heard of Big Love during this quarantine time. If you've never watched Big Love, binge that one. It was like HBO or whatever, and it was on polygamy. Um, and in that series too, they had it so the houses were next to each other, and then they shared one yard and yeah. So, Joy says, but that's why he wound up with over 200 tigers. He didn't euthanize them after they were useful. He did sell some, but it was Doc that killed them. Yeah. You're right, Doc. And how about that scene too, where the new husband was getting out the files, and then shows, and here's Doc, and they're like, no, because at that time Joe wasn't mad at Doc, so it's like, don't get him in trouble. I thought that was funny. Danny says, not about Joe, but just saw an ad for a story about a girl who was found dead in a hotel freezer. Does this ring bells to anyone? Danny, that happened here in Chicago area. And she was drunk, young girl. And then the family sued, but I don't remember what the result was on that. Oh, and there's Tiffany saying Kanika Jenkins, so maybe Tiffany remembers. Justice says, yeah, that other breeder mistakenly let out that Carol sold him kittens in the documentary when Carol said she never sold any kittens. Joe sold some to Karen too, so it's all a little dirty little secret. Yes, Heather, sister wives. That's what Big Love is sister wives. All right, Danny asking Tiffany if it's worth reading about. Christy says, I see that Joe filed a $94 million lawsuit from prison. Oh, I saw that, but I don't know who he was filing against or what it was. I didn't click on that one. So, and who was it? Cardi B? Is it Cardi B who's now taking on defending Joe? Some rapper chick. Okay, and Justice says over discrimination. Christy says accusing different government agencies of railroading him. Tiffany says, is talking to Danny. When it first happened, I went down that rabbit hole, lost sleep. I followed it for about a year, still an accidental death as of now. Yeah, she was like drunk and walking around the hotel and was found dead in the freezer of the kitchen, right? Justice says he said that he's in jail for the same thing Carol and that other breeder is doing. Absolutely he is. Oh my God. I don't even know if I can say it like that, Christy. Okay. Okay. I can't do it. Sorry. I can, but I can't do it like that. And there's your kitty sound. Yeah, my kids are brats, I believe it was an accidental death. I think it was too. But yeah, Joe's in jail. You had the video of Carol used to do it too, and there she was socializing cubs and all that. Oh, Justice says, watch RuPaul Drag Race and you'll learn how to do it. I used to watch that show and loved it. And then for some reason I stopped. But I did love that show. I love a good drag queen. They're so much fun. Drag shows are a blast. We've got 4 minutes left. Yeah, let me know what you come up with on Joe. We'll probably talk about this case some more, because how can you not? More stuff's going to come out, and there's so much to talk about. I'll end this with talking a little bit about Marni and Melissa. their prison has people with the virus. And it's being kept from the public. So I'm very worried what's going to happen. I haven't heard from Marni. Tammy talks to Marni regularly. I am emailing with Melissa a lot. But the email thing is all screwed up. So, like when you send an inmate an email, you'll eventually get an email saying that your email's been approved for delivery. So it could be days until you get that. But now I'm like continually getting emails from the prison saying your email to Marni, to Kent, to Melissa has been approved for delivery. And it's like, I haven't sent something. It's kind of crazy. But so I'm emailing with Melissa like multiple times a day. Um, Melissa has been working some nights now because they've got a night cleaning shift. Melissa, I wish I was Melissa in her obsession with cleaning because I am such a lazy slob. But Melissa like bleaches her walls and and this is on a regular. Every week she does this, that she's so clean. And now she's part of the cleaning crew cleaning the prison at night. So she's like, she's tired, but it's something right there, Jeff. She's tired, but she's happy to do it. But I don't think Melissa and Marni know the extent of what's going on in their prison. And yeah, Cook County Jail has a whole bunch. That's in the news. But the prison that Marni and Melissa, I've had a whistleblower contact me that I won't reveal. And there's a whole bunch at the prison, and that the medical staff that their prison has, a lot of them are refusing to report to work because they don't want to go in there. So it's a big worry. Tammy and I are going to be starting this week. We'll be doing it on the WMP Justice Review. We're going to use this time that everybody is locked down, literally, inmates and all of us. We're going to educate you all on Marni's case from beginning to current. What the whole case is about. We're going to focus on all the different pieces of evidence, all of that. So that should be starting this week. It could be tomorrow. I don't know. So that will be on the WMP Justice Review page. And we'll be making a Facebook event for it. So you can click that you're going to it and be reminded of. Excuse me. And I'll make new events every time we're going to do an episode. So you can just have that reminder and be on your calendar. And so like Tammy has been writing up the episodes on what we'll be doing. So so like the first one's going to be about the case. We're also going to talk about the coronavirus in prisons and such. That will be one. Just reminding people to thumbs up. There's this thing with YouTube that you need to click the bell or subscribe. So maybe you'll get an email notification from YouTube when I go live. And when things have more thumbs up, it makes it easier to find in the search. So that's why everybody always reminds you of those things. Justice says, too bad you didn't have a good camera to do jail interviews. Well, actually, what I'm talking to you on right now is a camera that Jeff bought for this. It's a video camera. So it's not, because my camera for my computer's over here, because my laptop here that's doing this is over here, but my camera's over here. So I do have a camera. And actually, Tammy has a whole setup. And actually, here's something Tammy just sent me recently. Let me go grab it. And I'll let the dogs out while I'm doing it. Since they're biting me. Come on outside. So now I have an official press pass from WMP TV. Got the whole barcode and all that. So I can go into things as press to do those kinds of interviews. But you can't get into jails or prisons currently. Christy asks, has any new testing begun for Marni after the last hearing? Yeah, things are going on with the stuff that that we just won in the last hearing, but of course everything gets put off because of this virus. So I think it's like all cases get a 30-day extension. So Marni's has the 30-day extension just like Stevens did. So I don't know when we're going to be hearing anything on that, but stuff is happening. So, all right. So that's the end of today. I don't want to be on forever. We've been on for an hour and a half now, even though what am I going to do? I'm now just going to go back to watching TV. What am I binge watching currently to leave y'all with? I'm currently binge watching the 3rd season of Ozark. And then I was also watching this show called Incarcerated Girls. It's some teen prison in Indiana. So those are the two things I'm because I had been watching the Incarcerated Girls, and then Ozark just came out on Friday. So it was like, oh my God, Ozark just came out. So I think I've got like 3 episodes left of that one. But I will let y'all know when we're going to be going live on WMP Justice Review to start tearing apart Marni's case for y'all. Oh, my kids are brats are from Indiana. So, well, that show, it's like called Incarcerated Girls, I want to say. And there's 2 seasons of it. So they're 2 different the first season is one in Indiana and the second season is another. But we'll be tearing apart Marni's case, and I really want you all to go into it with an open mind. And I know so many people think Marni is guilty, and I want you, when we're discussing it, Girls Incarcerated. Thank you, Karen. Hit us with it. Why do you think Marni's guilty? And we'll show you why she's not. And there's nobody better to talk about it than Tammy. She knows the case backwards and forwards. So I'm just going to be on with her is asking her the questions. There's no reason to ask me anything on the case when Tammy's there, because Tammy knows it all. Yeah, I watched Lost Girls too, Joyce. Oh, Jasta, I missed your thing saying Outlander is good. Starts slow the first one, but it gets so good. Yeah, I think Outlander was something I tried and couldn't get into. So maybe, depending how long we get locked in, maybe it's something I'll circle back around to. So, all right. So, I don't know when I'll be popping on live on here, but the WMP Justice Review thing on Marni's case should be happening this week. We're talking about doing it maybe twice a week, so it would be like Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Central or something like that, because we want to do it at a time that's good for all time zones, since we do have people from around the world that watch things. So, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. All you cool cubs and cute kittens. What is it? I don't remember what that weirdo says. So, all right. So, yes, and as Josta is saying, be safe, everyone. Take care, love, and respect. We're all in this together, no matter what country you're in, no matter how old you are, what color you are, your religion, orientation. We're all in this together. So stay home. and watch Making a Murderer and Tiger King. We'll talk again soon. Bye, everybody.